Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 11 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Andy Diamond, the president of Angry Crab Shack. And the Angry Crab Shack is a fun and casual Cajun seafood restaurant offering high-quality seafood at an affordable price. The brand is primed for national expansion and is ramping up franchising efforts across the United States, and we're going to talk to Andy about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around.
The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com, or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 11 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Andy Diamond, the president of Angry Crab Shack. And Angry Crab Shack is a fun and casual Cajun seafood restaurant offering high-quality seafood at an affordable price. Hi, Andy. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Marty, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate this.
This is my pleasure, Andy. We always like to ask our guests where you're calling from this morning.
I'm calling you from beautiful, but soon to be very hot Phoenix, Arizona.
And I guess so. You're right. It is going to be very hot soon, isn't it? So I guess you can appreciate it now, right? But in another month or so, Andy, it is going to be brutal. But you know, it's such a beautiful part of the country. I've been out there before, and it's a wonderful place. So I think that's fantastic. You know, our guests are probably saying, Andy, they're saying, okay, what is Angry Crab Shack? I mean, for one, it's a great name, and I just had to tell you before I even started the show that you know, crab is my favorite food. So I had made sure I ate a big breakfast this morning because I said I'm going to be hungry after speaking to you. But what is Angry Crab Shack, Andy? How do you describe it to our listeners?
Well, you know, at the introduction of the show, you kind of said it perfect. It's a full-service, casual seafood concept. What we specialize in is Cajun seafood boil, and it's flavored with our signature sauces.
It sounds like, though, you know, when I was going through the website, you know, watching some videos, Andy, I mean, Angry Crab Shack, to me, it sounds more also like an experience, and that's what that your customers are getting when they come into an Angry Crab Shack, aren't they?
Absolutely, and we actually refer to customers and consumers as our guests. We're inviting them into our home, and that's the way that we are treating them once they walk through the doors of Angry Crab Shack.
That's fantastic. I know, when I was reading about Angry Crab Shack earlier on last week, Andy, I see that, the company is certainly planning on, expanding, throughout the United States. Are there any locations opening in 2008? What are the plans for the future?
Yeah, Marty, our founder, Ron Liu, founded Angry Crab Shack in 2013 in Mesa, Arizona. Who would have thought that, in a short 4 or 5 years, we'd have grown to 6 locations in Arizona, and our first franchise opened in Tucson last year. But the plans are not to stop. We have 2 more Arizona franchise locations opening up in 2018, one probably towards the end of the beginning of the third quarter of this year, and then another one sometime in the fourth quarter of this year. And then after that, it's national expansion. We're targeting first, although it's nationwide, we are targeting, the Southwest areas near us, your Salt Lake City, Utahs, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Las Vegas, Denver, Colorado, and Nebraska.
Right. That would make sense. How do you, if you were at a franchise show, Andy, the typical question always seems to be, I'm going to go to one in New York. I think it's next week. But, a lot of times when prospective franchisees come up to the booth, they always ask the same typical question. They say, what is the Angry Crab Shack? How do you describe it to prospective franchisees? Is it in the same manner as you would describe it to a consumer?
Well, it's a little different, but it is the same, right? When you're talking to a potential franchise owner, and it's another distinguishment that we have, franchisees we like to call franchise owners because they do own a business, and we do look at them as our business partner. We're both in it together, and we want to make sure that they are successful. Their success is our success, and our success will be their success. But, so when talking to a potential franchise owner, I tell them it's a family-oriented restaurant. We cater to everyone for every occasion, whether it be Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, work events, birthdays, anniversaries. You're just going to see a lot of groups in Angry Crab Shack eating, having a good time. You're right. It is a dining experience. It's a destination restaurant. You're going to get an affordable, high-quality meal. And trust me, the dining experience is unique, and it's entertaining.
What do you look for? You get to go into a lot of Angry Crab Shacks, Andy. If you and I were to go into one right now, what would you recommend to me to get? I looked at the menu, by the way, and I wouldn't even know where to begin because I would want to eat all of it. But what do you typically recommend, or what do you like to get when you go into one?
Well, we do specialize in the Cajun seafood boil, as I'm sure you saw on the menu. And what that is, to people that don't know, it's your shrimp, it's your king crab, it's your snow crab, it's your lobster, your Dungeness crab. Crawfish is very popular, obviously, during certain times of the year.
Yeah.
But what it is it's boiled seafood that is flavored in a buttery signature sauce that has Cajun, we call Cajun Asian spices, your lemon, pepper, your garlic, your Cajun. And then you can spice it up as high as you want, go from what we call wimpy, which is really no spice at all the way to the Carolina Reaper, which I do not suggest on your first visit. No. But all these, the seafood is all in a bag and combined with all the sauces to soak up all the flavor, and it's just brought to your table, and there's really no rules. Your table is the plate, and your hands are your knife and fork.
What do you typically look for then, Andy? In your franchisees, are there any type of characteristics, traits, or maybe even like experience that you look for that you think would be a good match for Angry Crab Shack?
Yeah, I would say it would fall into 2 categories. First, obviously, you got your existing franchise owners.
Right.
These are people that may own burger places, they may own pizza places, they may own barbershops, things outside the restaurant industry, but they're looking for something to expand their portfolio. And of course, they're going to want a smart investment, which we think Angry Crab is a smart investment. But then you also have some, just foodies, people that love seafood. And when you walk into an Angry Crab, you'll get this energy of this unique dining experience. And it's really a simple setup. So, people that kind of understand that and understand food and understand the simple restaurant operation would make sense too. We definitely want people that have restaurant experience and some sort of management experience. And I mean, this is a business. So having business experience and kind of a business acumen. But the one thing you got to have is passion. I mean, you really do.
Right.
You got to have a passion for food. You got to have a passion for entertainment. You got to have a passion for running the business. This is your business.
Right.
If there are people like myself that wanted to get out of corporate America, that I could have a flexible schedule, kind of be my own boss. And, if I wanted to cut out early to go to a baseball game one day, I'm going to go do that because I can go do that.
Of course, right.
And in the end, this is a business, and people that want financial gain, they want to say, hey, this is a great investment and I want to benefit from it. I mean, people that identify Angry Crab Shack as a smart investment, those are the people we want too.
What is the training like, Andy? I mean, once you do decide, that you like them, they like you, and they do want to come on board as a franchisee, for the training, do they come out to headquarters then? Is that where it typically takes place?
Yes, they do. They'll come and spend at least some time as what we call the mothership, which was the original restaurant that was opened in Mesa, Arizona in 2013.
Wow.
But they're going to spend time at a few Angry Crab Shacks because we want them to understand that although a building may look different, it's still going to look the same, and the operations are still the same. And one of the things that is unique about Angry Crab Shack, I think, is that we've gone into old restaurants, old bars, pizza places, Mexican places. So we're able to look at a restaurant. The last franchisee or franchise owner that just signed with us, it's an old Applebee's, and as long as you can go in there and you can visualize what the restaurant is, we don't pigeonhole you into something like, well, it's got to look like this and it's got to be, this size and it's got to be this shape. It's like, hey, if we can turn this into an Angry Crab Shack environment, we'll do it. So we want you to get a sense of all the different types of buildings that we use. You're going to go through a 2-week training period. Now, what we like to do is we like to bring in the operating partner, the general manager, and the kitchen manager for this 2-week period. They're going to go through the same corporate training that all our corporate managers go through. They're going to spend time in the kitchen. They're going to spend time with the host, the busser, the servers. They're going to be able to learn and do every single job aspect in the Angry Crab Shack restaurant. But it doesn't stop there. We're also going to have classroom time, and you're going to learn about the culture of Angry Crab Shack and the history of Angry Crab Shack. And this is going to be conducted by our founder, Ron Liu. He's very integral in operations.
Wow.
You wouldn't know it. You could walk to an Angry Crab Shack and you could see some guy. You're not going to miss him. Ron Liu's a former NFL player. He played with the Houston Oilers and the Philadelphia Eagles. And you could see him walking around and changing paper, bussing tables, seeing guests. So you may not know that that he is the founder of Angry Crab Shack, and that's just kind of how we are. So he's going to be conducting these classrooms. I will personally be conducting classroom workshops on, P&L analysis and forecasting and purchasing and inventory. But we're also going to bring in our vendors to help you. Our food vendors and our marketing vendors are going to be there to go over specifics with you and what their role is. Basically, we want everyone that comes into Angry Crab, we want to give them everything that they need to be successful in running an Angry Crab Shack. But of course, the training doesn't stop after those 2 weeks. We're all about continuous improvement. So we're going to be down at your grand opening. We're going to be helping you through the steps, whether it be real estate help or design help in the restaurant. We're going to be there for you every step of the way. And then once you're open, Angry Crab Shack's all about continuous improvement. So we're going to be looking for new processes, and we're going to be looking for new menu items. And so that training is going to be constant as we go through this journey together.
I was reading about Ron Liu early this morning, Andy. And it was impressive. It's for one, it's interesting. How many NFL football players I've interviewed over the last 12 years. It's interesting how many of them go into franchising. But one thing I didn't realize about him is I think they said he had something like 35 years experience of serving seafood. And I said, wow. I mean, in addition to you think he was playing football his whole life, but he has some great experience too. That in coming up with this concept. And I thought that was impressive, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Ron Liu's a unique individual. Just like Angry Crab Shack's unique experience, so is Ron Liu. I mean, he played under the legendary, great Frank Kush, one of the great college football coaches in the history of the NCAA, but definitely the most known one at Arizona State University. And he played with a lot of people will know the name Danny White, who was the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. He played, and I've fortunately been able to meet a gentleman named Michael Haynes, who's a Super Bowl winning cornerback and a Hall of Famer with the Oakland Raiders. So me as a sports fan, meeting some of the people through him, the people I get to talk to, trust me, it's been a fun experience. But Ron, as soon as he got out of college, he went to work for himself. I mean, he started at home, literally started at Home Depot. And then he's like, you know what? I want to get out and I want to do my own thing. And he started in the restaurant business. And his family's, he grew up, his family was in the produce business. So he knew some things about food. And he just continually learns, and he's still learning. And you still see him on the internet learning new processes and procedures.
That's wonderful. We, my frustration in living out here in Eastern Pennsylvania, Andy, is, we don't have a lot of seafood places to really, choose from, but of course, there are, other concepts, I guess in your industry. One of the questions you might get, is what makes Angry Crab Shack, different from other concepts in your industry?
Yeah, trust me, when we opened Angry Crab Shack in Arizona, people are like, well, it's Arizona. How are you going to get good seafood? Well, we do. And we do because we call Boston for the lobsters. And we call Seattle and Portland for the Dungeness crab. And we make sure we get our crawfish from the Gulf and the blue crab from the Gulf. And we make sure that we're sourcing the highest quality seafood. Our king crab and snow crab is coming from, the Bering Strait up there, Alaska and Russia, and the waters up there. So we make sure that we have the freshest and the most, and the highest quality ingredients. Something that I think, was established very early on was our culture. And you've heard me say guest versus customer and franchise owner, versus franchisee. And, just little things like that, I think, make a difference. When Angry Crab Shack started, the culture kind of morphed. A lot of it came from the first employees that we hired. And there's still some people that still work for us that were some of the first hires that we had at Angry Crab Shack. So
that's something.
When you get people that were some of the original employees help train some of the newer employees, that culture gets passed on. So there's a lot of history and a lot of things that made us successful that have stayed within the company as we've grown.
You're the president of the company, and so I can ask you, if you could look into a crystal ball then, maybe 3 to 5 years down the road, where do you see the organization?
Well, I think there's a little bit of room for growth in Arizona. There's some places in Yuma. Not too much. We have 7 right now. With 2 more coming. I would think maybe you could get to 12 or 13 in Arizona, but we don't want to oversaturate our market. But so the focus really is on expanding outside of Arizona, and we've been gearing up for the last year with some great people over at Fishman PR company out of Chicago, as well as some local PR people that we deal with. But I'm not putting any limits on what we can do. That's one thing that I've learned is why cap it? Now, we want to grow, at a successful rate, but I'm not just going to, say, oh, no. Anytime a franchise owner comes to us and says we want to put something in place, we're going to help research it with them to see if that place makes sense. So I'd love to be all the way in Atlanta. I'd love to be in Nashville. I'd love to be in my hometown of Kansas City. Las Vegas. I'd love to get in the next 3 to 5 years. I'd love to get somewhere between 80 and 100 locations across the nation, because our business model, it's simple. It's simple interiors. It's simple kitchen operations. The initial investment is a lot lower than I think what you get with other franchise concepts. Now, obviously, I can't speak to other franchise concepts. I can only speak to our own. But when you have that low investment with the high potential for sales, Angry Crab is just a franchise-friendly concept.
And, it's interesting in interviewing you, Eddie, you use the word, several times, is simple, and it makes me realize that, your concept is certainly franchisable, because that's one of the keys to franchising, isn't it? Is the simplicity. You can duplicate your concept again, whether it is in Arizona or whether it's in Philadelphia or whether it's in, anywhere. It's the simplicity, and that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you're not able to pass on your processes to other people, then what good are those processes? And the simpler, the better. There's no reason to complicate things if you don't need to, right? Like, this is simple. You come in, you order your food, you eat it, you enjoy it. Before you leave, you tag our walls. I don't know if you saw in the pictures of Angry Crab Shack the tagging and graffiti that it looks like graffiti all over the walls. The interiors are tongue and groove. And people, this is one thing that just kind of morphed. People just started, it's like, hey, can I get a pen to sign your wall? Sure. And now it's just like, you'll never know what you'll see on the walls. It's great, and it's really a great way for our customers to come in, our guests to come in and really leave their mark and feel a part of the restaurant.
Yeah, and that's what kind of separates one from the other, I guess, is because the graffiti is always going to be a little bit different in a different location, you know. So, but the concept is always the same. So that's fantastic. What's the best way for our listeners, Andy, to get more information on Angry Crab Shack as a franchise opportunity and even the restaurant itself? Are any websites that you'd like them to go to check it out?
Sure. Well, of course, you can see everything about Angry Crab Shack on angrycrabshack.com. But then we have a separate website. Now, you can get to this website from the original website. There's a link. But if you just want to learn about franchising, you can go to angrycrabfranchise.com. And that will have all the contact information. It'll give you some numbers. It'll give you a little bit of what we're about. It'll introduce you to our team and give you a lot of information so where you can start this franchising process.
That's fantastic, and I hope you consider coming to the Philadelphia area soon, because I said that'll be fantastic, because I think people are always a little bit willing to travel further to go to a seafood place than if it was a pizza place, you know what I mean? That, they're willing to, make that a little extra journey, so I think that's fantastic.
Marty, you're absolutely right. I was just in our Peoria location on Saturday. And there were guests that came in, and they came up to us and wanted to tell us how great the food was. And they had hoped it would be this great because they had traveled from Flagstaff, which is about an hour and a half to 2 hours north. They drove just to come for our seafood. And when you know people are doing that, you want to make sure that you're making their travel worthwhile, and you want to make sure that they have that awesome experience.
That's fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you today, Andy, and I'd already like to invite you back as you continue to grow, because I think Angry Crab Shack has a great franchise opportunity. I like the simplicity of the model, and of course the product itself I think is fantastic. So, I'd already like to invite you back as you continue to grow, because I think this is great.
Marty, I would love to come on anytime, and of course I'm going to invite you, if you like baseball, if you like sports,
I do.
Come on down to Arizona. I would do it in the February, March, April time period, but I would love for you to be one of our guests and experience Angry Crab for what it is.
That's fantastic. It was great talking to you today, Andy, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822. Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? For over 8 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting franchise interviews now over 8 years and over 400 shows, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today you're going to get to hear from Chris Simic, who is the founder of FranchiseTeacher.com, and Chris has over 30 years of business and franchise experience as an independent business owner, a franchisee, and a franchisor. And Chris said something very profound that we haven't heard on our show in over 8 years. He mentioned that you have to almost work harder to fail at franchising than to succeed in franchising, and he explains why.
Most people, about 90% I think I've seen, buy a business other than they first looked at.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's a big number too, isn't it, Chris? You know, that, you know, most people, they go in with these certain expectations and they come out with something different, you know, and I find that fascinating.
I absolutely, it never ceases to astound me, but I think that speaks to the value of franchising as a business model and a business method, because people don't have to be in something just because they know it. And quite candidly, sometimes getting involved in a business that you would rather do, that you were not involved in, allows you the luxury of taking a new career path and to develop something you never would have had the opportunity to had it not been, you know, systematized and prioritized for you. You know, in franchising, it's said that you have to really almost work harder to fail than to succeed, because if you have a good franchise system, if you follow directions, you have to almost purposely not follow them to not do well.
That's true. That's fantastic. We have this great quote in franchising. I think we're going to put that one in there, Chris. I think that's very original, and it's very true. What advice would you give to our listeners? You know, we find that most of them, they're just beginning their search to buy a franchise, Chris, and we find that, you know, most of them just simply, they don't even know where to begin, like you were saying. What advice would you give to them?
I do, when I speak to people looking at franchise, I give them three different pieces of advice. One, make sure you're looking for a business for the right reason. Now, a lot of people have things happen in their life. They lose a job or something happens, and they react and maybe say, well, okay, maybe I'll go buy a business. That may not be the reason to do it versus having the luxury of selectivity that here's my opportunity that was created by some adversity. Second thing is that they have to make sure that they are able to be franchisees, that not everybody is designed to be able to follow the systems, procedures, and the processes it takes to be a successful franchise owner. And then I tell them quite candidly is pick a couple of the industries and the price ranges that may have interest to you, and then kind of pin down from there, either using the resources of a consultant or a broker or a team member, or on their own, either way. But I think that if they take their time, follow the steps, and do it for the right reasons, they'll be on a much smoother pathway to success in owning their own business.
That's well said. What's in the future then for Franchise Teacher, Chris? I mean, where do you see the company 3 to 5 years down the road?
Well, Marty, we've been extremely fortunate and blessed that the business has been around, you know, through Century Franchise Group for many years, and our new FranchiseTeacher.com has taken off. We're representing right now, 7 plus brands. I think in 5 years our focus will really be even more fine-tuned as the consumer or the prospective business owner is looking for more and more specific information. Breaking down to teach, coach, consult, and advise, I think will be a way for us to assist people in what they need. You know, people again don't know what they don't know, but I think information overload sometimes discourages people too early. They say, this is too much for me to process. But we can break it down into bite-sized pieces. I think more and more people, especially the younger generation, who are looking for the advice and the information they want when they want it, I think is going to do nothing more than continue. Then our next business venture, which launches at the end of this year, is looking to capture all the different franchise brands around the world and put them into one place. So we're looking forward to a future. And franchising is going nowhere but growing. As you
right
for a long time too, the number of franchise opportunities, and the world's getting to be a smaller place. I think you're going to find a lot of opportunities coming in and going out of different marketplaces in different countries, accessible to more people.
That's fantastic. What's the best way, Chris, for our listeners to get more information on franchiseteacher.com? Obviously, franchiseteacher.com, but any numbers you'd like them to call or email addresses?
Well, actually, we appreciate www.franchiseteacher.com. And my business partner, Dave, and I offer them the free 1-hour consultation. Fill out the form and take advantage of it.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Chris, for finally coming on the show. I've been following your career for a long time now, and I have just been very impressed with everything that you've done, So when I saw this, I mentioned to you, we don't typically call people to come on the show, but I had to have you specifically on the show. So it was an honor and a privilege to have you on the show today.
Marty, ditto, and again, congratulations on your PhD doctorate. I have read your thesis, and I would recommend it reading if people can get through
that's fantastic.
The information.
I really appreciate that you read it, too, because that's an honor coming from you. So that's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you again, Chris.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.